In the previous tutorial, we learned how we can produce contour plot from Metropolis data in Excel. In this video, we want to see how we can produce the same plots in Origin. So to produce the contour plot in Origin, we are going to use the data we have produced from Metropolis data. My data is changing. I have three variables. The first variable is JMR, which is changing between -1 to 1. The second variable is temperature, which is changing between 0.05 to 1.1. And whatever I have in the middle are the values of magnetization, total device magnetization that we know as MNOR. I want to import this data and produce the same plot in Origin. However, we expect that we get a very more professional image in Origin, which is proper for scientific work, for publication, and this kind of purposes. So to produce this plot in Origin, I will go firstly to my Origin software. Among the tabs, different options that I have on the top, I will go to the new matrix option. So this time we don't open new workbook, we open a new matrix. And here we go, we have a matrix here created by Origin. The size of this matrix is important, so I'm going to change the size. Based on the data size that I have here, I have 21 rows, 21 columns. Between -1 to 1, I have 21 number, and I have 7 different temperatures. So I have 7 rows and 21 columns. So let's create that. If I go to very top left corner of this Excel file, of this Origin file, there is an arrow here on this empty cell. I right click on that, this window pops up, and then I can click on set matrix dimension. Then you can enter the size of your matrix. So I have columns times rows. So my columns are 21 and I have 7 rows, but your data, based on the information you have in your data set, this size can be different. Also for columns, the variables are changing between -1 to 1, and the rows are temperature values, 0.05 to 1.1. I'll go ahead and click on OK. So I have my matrix created here for the proper size of my data set. The next step is importing the magnetic moment values. So I'll just click on the highlighted part and copy that and paste it on the first cell of my created matrix. So I have my matrix here. I don't need to copy and paste these rows and columns because I have already put these numbers in this Excel, in this Origin file. To see the range of columns, values, and also row values, I'll go to the View option and then click on Show XY. Now you see that we have the actual values of my variables. So the columns are changing between -1 to 1 because these are the JMR values. And the row values are temperature, 0.05 to 1.1. And since there isn't an equal increment between these two numbers with the rest, so if you look at 0.1, 0.3, 0.5, 7, 9, 1.1, the increment between all of these is 0.2. The only first temperature doesn't have an equal increment compared to the other ones. That's why in Origin, you don't see exactly the same numbers you have there because it has divided the whole range into equal numbers. So you might not see exactly the same numbers that you have for your temperatures if the increments are not equal. But that's not a problem. When we plot the contour plot, we can see the correct values there. So I have created my matrix with the information I need. I'm going to highlight the whole matrix, and then we'll go to the plot, contour option, and then the first option that I clicked. So here you see that we have the contour plot. This contour plot is, if you compare it with what you have here, the pattern is exactly the same, but we see that here we have a much better quality, different intensities, and also more details can be derived from this contour plot. But other than these differences in color and intensities, there is another kind of things you can do, and you can manipulate your plot. You can add information and add more detail, and there are many things you can actually have control of. So firstly, let's define the titles of the axis: JMR and KT values. This color bar represents magnetic moment. Now I want to add some numbers, and I want to show the intensities of different kind of regions I have in this contour plot. So to do so, I will double click on this image and I will have this panel. The first thing is, if you go to this last option, and if you click on this show on major levels only, you can see the major numbers, intensities in your plot. So let's click on apply. And the major regions have been represented by these numbers. How we can change these majors, how we can add some minors. So to make these changes, I'll go to the first column, and I have the control to change, increase, or decrease the major and minor levels. So if I, for example, increase the major levels to 12 and minor levels to 7 and click on OK and apply, I would have more numbers and more regions to actually to show. Another way you can add these numbers is doing that manually. So if I want to do that manually, I will firstly go to this option. I will uncheck this show on major levels only, and then I'll go. You see that there are all these intensities here. These numbers are all available here. So if I want to add some numbers, for example, in this region, I know that this region is a blue region. So I need something less than 200, for example. So I'll go all the way down. Actually, it is started from smaller values. So all numbers below 200, you see that they are not highlighted, they are not selected. So if I choose, for example, 100 and apply that, you see that all numbers that are all regions that have intensities of 100, they are represented here. Another thing we can do is we can remove some of those numbers. So for example, if I see I don't want to have 200.8, I will go simply and find this number here, and I will uncheck that and click on apply. So these 200 numbers removed from your plot. The other thing you have control of is changing type of lines you have for this region. So I can choose a solid line, or I can choose a dashed line, or any other these options that you might be interested in. So if I choose dashed line and click on OK, your lines would be changed into dashed line. Another thing is changing the thickness. You can have a thicker line or thinner line. So I think this number is a good number to show, but if you want to see how it changes, I will go to the thicker width, and you see that this dashed line changes a little bit. The other thing is changing these colors. So here the range of color is between blue to red. So the intensity, the lower intensity is represented by blue, and a very strong intensity is shown by red. But you have control over the colors you want to have in this image. So you can, for example, choose from light blue and go, for example, to this pink, and then click on OK. So the intensity of the color and your color bar can also be change here in this contour plot. Another thing you can have control over is changing the format of these numbers you have in your contour plot. So you see that these numbers are represented by decimals, 100.4, or on your color bar you have, for example, 1205.0. So we might not be interested in having these decimals. To make these changes and change them into integer, you can go to this second tab on the top, label, and And not only you can change the format of these numbers, you can also change the font and the font size. So you can have an increased size for your fonts, and you can change the colors of them. And also you can change the format. To change the format and having integers, I'll go ahead and choose decimal places, and I'll click on 0. So I'm telling the Origin software that I don't want to have these decimal places. After applying that, you see that these numbers are changed into integers, and click on OK. If you want to put a title on your image, you can simply click on this text tool and put it here. And you can say this is MTJMSD magnetic moment, for example. So this is how we can create contour plot in Origin. And this is similar to what we did in Excel. However, we have a much more detailed image, and also we have a much better quality. I changed the color into the original format from blue to red, which is more common for these contour plots. And that's it. Hope you have enjoyed this tutorial.